This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
ملف الاستيطان لا يزال عثرة في طريق العلاقات الأمريكية الإسرائيلية. هذا ما أكده المبعوث
U.S. Middle East envoy George Mitchell reiterated that the Israeli settlement issue is still an obstacle to U.S.-Israeli relations. He said that more efforts are needed to help the U.S. and Israel reach an agreement about the settlement issue. Mitchell will meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tomorrow. He held meetings with a number of Israeli officials yesterday, indicating that it was still too early to talk about reaching an agreement on the issue of a settlement freeze, but he hoped that progress would be achieved in the near future.
ونشاط إسرائيل الاستيطاني كان في صلب اللقاء الذي جمع أمس في القاهرة.
The Israeli settlement campaign was the focus of discussion at the meeting in Cairo between Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. During the talks, which were described as honest by the Egyptian President's office, Mubarak called on Netanyahu to stop all settlement activities. He stressed the importance of reopening negotiations with the Palestinians, clarifying that there is no new agenda about a Palestinian state with temporary borders. Ahmed Al-Kilani reports from Cairo.
A series of complicated issues in the Arab-Israeli conflict were brought to the bargaining table between Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The most important topic of the conversation was resuming the stalled peace process.
I think that Egypt has two conditions for resuming the peace process. First, Netanyahu should firmly announce that he will freeze all settlement activities in Jerusalem over a specific period of time. Second, Egypt is beginning to pursue negotiations which have been stalled since Olmert's regime.
The U.S. administration is showing enthusiasm for entering the peace process, which is currently revolving around the U.S. envoy George Mitchell's visit to the Middle East. Cairo relies on this enthusiasm largely to contribute to making progress and reaching a lasting settlement in the region.
President Obama will propose a new initiative in the peace process in the Middle East. This was reiterated in the talks between President Hosni Mubarak and Mr. Netanyahu today.
زيارة خالد مشعل السريعة للقاهرة والتي لم يعلن عنها رسميا قبل يوم.
Khalid Mishal's quick visit to Cairo a day before Netanyahu arrived was not officially announced and has led some to predict that there will be developments in the prisoner exchange deal. Other reports point out that this visit was especially made for the purpose of discussing efforts to end the Palestinian division between the movements of Fatah and Hamas. Steps are rapidly being made in the peace process, but it still faces the same challenges. Israel continues its arrogant policies, and Palestinians are deeply divided. Meanwhile, the settlements are reducing the hope of achieving a comprehensive resolution to the Palestinian cause. Ahmed Al-Kilani, Dubai TV, Cairo.
القاهرة.
صاروخ الكاتيوشا اللذان سقط على شمال إسرائيل تتحمل مسؤوليتهما مجموعة تطلق على نفسها.
A group called Abdullah Azzam, which is affiliated with the Zia al-Jarrah brigades, has claimed responsibility for the two Katyusha rockets that fell in northern Israel, according to a statement that was posted on the internet. The group justified the launching of the two rockets with Israel's continuous aggression toward Palestinians through blockades and forbidding them from praying in the Al-Aqsa Mosque and by digging tunnels under the mosque. It is worth mentioning that Ziad al-Jarrah was Lebanese and provided one of the suicide bombers that participated in the September 11th attacks on the United States in 2001.
Captain Asaf Ramon, killed in a training accident in his F-16 jet fighter yesterday afternoon, is being laid to rest at this hour at the cemetery in Nahalal in the north of the country. Asaf was buried next to his father, Ilan Ramon. Israel's first astronaut and former fighter pilot who was killed when the space shuttle Columbia disintegrated on re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere 6.5 years ago. Thousands of people, along with the country's top leaders, were in attendance. The family asked that the media not film the funeral. Meanwhile, the investigation into the cause of the tragic training accident, which cut short the life of a young pilot following in his father's footsteps, continues. IBA's Dennis Zinn has more.
Israel Air Force investigators today continued combing the crash site in the Hebron Hills for clues which may help them understand the reasons for the tragic accident which claimed the life of young fighter pilot Asaf Ramon. The debris was scattered over a vast area. 21-year-old Lieutenant Asaf Ramon, who was taking part in an advanced combat training course, took off in an F-16A single-seater jet from the Nevatim Air Base in the Negev yesterday afternoon. The routine training session went on for over an hour. The flight instructor who flew in a second aircraft said that nothing unusual happened until the point where he lost contact with Ramon. He reported that the two jets were flying at an altitude of 18,000 feet at about 700 kilometers an hour and had just completed a high-speed air-to-air simulated dogfight. Ramon's plane had disappeared from the radar as well. A state of emergency was declared. Rescue teams flew to the area. Within a short time, one of the helicopters found a still smoldering, debris-strewn crater and the remains of the pilot. Eyewitnesses on the ground described seeing a smoke mushroom. Sources close to the investigation said, due to the nature of the crash, the inquiry will be lengthy and complicated. They said there does not seem to be any evidence that Ramon tried to eject at any stage and that neither technical malfunction nor human error can be ruled out. Despite his young age, Ramon was considered an excellent pilot who had already proven himself in an emergency situation. Some 6 months ago, while still a flight cadet, Ramon safely flew a seriously faulty Skyhawk back to base. Like his father before him, Asaf Ramon was the outstanding cadet of his pilot course. His father, Ilan Ramon, Israel's first astronaut, was also an F-16 pilot, considered one of Israel's finest.
The nation has been shaken by the double tragedy of the Ramon family and the noble suffering of Asaf's mother, Rona, and her other 3 children. Prime Minister Netanyahu told the grief-stricken family that he, his wife, and the entire nation shared their tears. Defense Minister Mubarak said today that his heart breaks for the Ramon family. IBA's Aaron Viner takes a look at the triumphs and tragedies of one very special Israeli family.
Family, friends, and members of Israel's top military and political echelons made their way to the Ramon home in Ramat Gan last night to express their condolences as others lit memorial candles outside. Captain Asaf Ramon graduated from the Israel Air Force pilot's course with honors just over 2 months ago. At the time, Asaf said that while it was difficult for his widowed mother, Rona, to grant permission for him to become a fighter pilot due to the dangers, she wouldn't want to hold him back from something he chose. Asaf long expressed his desire to follow in the lofty footsteps of his decorated father, who was Israel's first astronaut, Colonel Ilan Ramon.
Now to go to space, like my dad.
Ilan Ramon also completed the IAF pilot's course with honors in 1974. In 1980, he was one of the first Israeli pilots to fly the newly purchased F-16 fighter planes, and he was the youngest pilot to participate in Israel's 1981 bombing of Iraq's Mosaic nuclear facility. Asaf and his family moved to Texas with their father after he was selected as an astronaut for NASA. But the Columbia spacecraft disintegrated upon re-entry to the Earth's atmosphere just minutes before its slated landing, killing all aboard. Prior to his fateful mission, Ilan left a letter for his eldest son, Asaf. Calling him my sweet boy, he wrote, "Look at the sky every evening and feel me walking about there. A bit far, but close, close to the heart. I love you and I will miss you." Since adolescence, Asaf insisted that, as proud as he was of his father's accomplishments, he made his own military decisions and would one day be a pilot.
If I'd been born in space, I know I would desire to visit the beautiful Earth more than I've ever yearned to visit to space.
Asaf later expressed hope that one day he too would be an astronaut, saying that he believed it would make him feel even closer to his father. President Shimon Peres presented Asaf with his flight wings at his June graduation, telling the Ramon family that All the hearts of Israel were pounding with love and excitement. Peres said, "We've come full circle from the Father to the Son," adding that Elon's star will shine in the evening sky with a blessed light for his son, who is making his dream come true. Two shining stars, father and son. An unbearable tragedy for one family, shared by an entire nation. This is Aaron Viner for IBA News.
نبدأ من إيران حيث صرح رئيس الادعاء العام في إيران غلام حسين محسني.
The Iranian General Prosecutor Gholam Hossein Mohseni stated that the reformist Mehdi Karoubi acted against and insulted the Iranian regime.
الأشخاص الموقوفين المتهمين بالضلوع في الاحتجاجات الأخيرة.
Meanwhile, the fifth trial resumed for the case of the defendants who are accused of inciting the recent riots over the results of the presidential election in Iran. 6 defendants appeared in court. The judge banned the media from publishing their names.
جلسة خامسة لمحاكمة الأشخاص الموقوفين بتهمة الضلوع في حركة الاحتجاجات على نتائج الانتخابات.
The fifth trial of the defendants accused of inciting the protests over the presidential election results in Iran raised particular concerns since the judge prohibited the media from publishing the names of the defendants. Iranian media confirmed that Abdullah Muamini, a student leader in the protest, was one of the 6 people standing trial in this closed-door session. The defendants are accused of posting photos of the demonstrations on the internet that the general prosecutor of the court described as not realistic. The prosecutor was referring to U.S. support of the reformists through YouTube, Facebook, and other websites to overthrow the regime and distort the image of the Iranian police and the Basij. It is the first time that the general prosecutor is directing accusations towards each defendant instead of reading from the list of charges. These trials, which cover around 140 protesters and reform leaders, in addition to employees at the British and French embassies, have been ongoing since the beginning of August. Iranian General Prosecutor Ghulam Hossein Mohseni Ajiri accused reformist Mehdi Karoubi of providing forged evidence of rape cases in prisons. Ajiri described these allegations made by Karoubi as an attack and an insult to the regime, with the goal of serving the enemy. Ajiri also demanded that legal measures be taken against Karoubi, which the reformists interpreted as a preemptive step towards arresting their leader. Mayal Muhandis Al-Arabiya.
In another development, the Iranian envoy to the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, said that his country is ready to defend itself against any military action targeting its nuclear program. Javier Solana, the High Representative of the European Union's Common Foreign and Security Policy, confirmed that a meeting between Iran and the world's major powers will take place on October 1st about Iran's nuclear issues. However, a spokesman from the Iranian Foreign Ministry, Hassan Kashkawi, said that this dialogue will focus on the points listed in the newest version of the Iranian proposals.
إن الدولة الإيرانية لن تتحدث حول حقها المؤكد في
The Iranian state will not discuss its unequivocal rights in possessing nuclear facilities. One of the articles listed in the proposals exists for the purpose of appeasing those who fear Iran's nuclear program. Iran is looking forward to the dialogue, and we are certainly ready to negotiate and communicate using the proposals that we have submitted.
The annual General Conference of the IAEA has officially approved Yukiya Amano from Japan as the Director General of the agency for the next 4 years, after Egyptian Mohammed al-Baradei. Amano, who will take office in December, was the Japanese ambassador to the IAEA. He received a majority vote of 2/3 from conservatives in the IAEA after 5 rounds of voting.
Today, Iran held the fifth trial session against the suspects accused of taking part in the post-election protests.
The assistant to the Iranian state prosecutor accused the U.S. of using the internet to spread false reports in Farsi about Iran. He also accused some of the detainees of posting pictures and films over the internet in an attempt to stir unrest.
The fifth trial session against the suspects implicated in the post-election protests resumed today in the Iranian capital of Tehran. It seems that the Iranian Authority is more determined than ever to take disciplinary actions against those it referred to as instigators. The court issued a gag order against all international news agencies. According to the Iranian official news agency, 6 defendants, including some student leaders, appeared today in the court. The Iranian court held its first trial session at the beginning of last August. Nearly 140 detainees, including protesters, reformist leaders, and employees at the French and British embassies, are standing trial on charges stemming from their involvement in the post-election riots. During today's session, the assistant to the Iranian state prosecutor accused the defendants of taking part in the latest wave of violence witnessed in Iran. He also accused the U.S. of publishing false reports in Farsi over some websites, such as YouTube and Facebook. In addition, the prosecutor's office accused the defendants of posting pictures and films in an attempt to incite unrest. He also accused some foreign news agencies of fueling the violence in an attempt to distort the image of the Islamic regime, both at the internal and international levels. The Iranian authorities denied accusations that they have committed torture and rape against some of the detainees. The former Iranian president Mohammad Khatami said in a statement last month that some of the confessions were made under duress and described them as baseless.
طلب وزير الخارجية الأفغاني السابق عبد الله والمنافس الرئيس لحامد كارزاي.
The former Afghan foreign minister and the main rival of President Hamid Karzai in the last presidential election, Abdullah, called for a runoff vote to ensure the winner of the country's elections and the legitimate choice of voters. More than 95% of polling stations are showing that Karzai is leading with more than 54% of the vote against 28% in favor of Abdullah.
مقابل 28 لعبد الله.
Joining us from Kabul is our correspondent Wali Allah Shaheen. Wali Allah, despite the fact that Abdullah has called for a runoff, do you think that the election has been decided and the results are final?
الحقيقة حتى الآن لم يعلن عن حسم النتائج النهائية ولم يعلن النتائج النهائية حتى الآن للانتخابات الرئاسية.
No announcements have been made to show that the election results are final. The final results of the presidential election, which was held last month, have not yet been announced.
لأن عبد الله يتهم أن عملية الانتخابات كانت عبارة عن تزوير شامل.
Meanwhile, Abdullah is calling for a second round of elections. Abdullah argued that the entire election process was rigged. He also accused his opponent of staging what he referred to as state-engineered fraud. He said that massive fraud was committed in polling stations across the country. He also described the votes from these stations as illegitimate.
بالإضافة إلى ذلك عبد الله يطالب بإلغاء نحو نصف مليون صوت من مجموع هذه.
Abdullah called for a second runoff vote to ensure transparency and integrity. He called for the invalidation of more than 500,000 votes, which are under investigation by the Independent Election Committee.
بحسب ما يقوله عبد الله فإن كارزاي لن يحصل على 50 زائد 1 من الأصوات.
Abdullah is seeking to annul these votes, and if that happens, Karzai will not get the required 51% of the vote to win the election. Thus, he will not be elected as president of Afghanistan for a second term.
لا يحق لأحد من المرشحين أن يطالب بأشياء يعتبرها هذه اللجنة بأنها غير منطقية. أفغانستان مقبلة على فصل الشتاء.
However, the election committee has its own opinion. The committee argues that none of the candidates have the right to demand anything that the committee deems irrational, especially considering that the country is bracing for a cold, snowy winter, which may hamper mobility and cause a delay in any anticipated runoff.
التحقيق حول الأصوات التي موجهة إليها أصابع الاتهام بأنها مزورة يجب أن
Reasonably, an investigation must be launched to determine the legitimacy of the votes in question. However, a showdown has ensued between the election committee and the monitoring committee, which is overseeing the claims of fraud. The monitoring committee is a 5-member foreign committee, which includes both Afghan and foreign observers.
هذه اللجنة عندها مشكلة مع لجنة الانتخابات ولذلك اليوم كان من المتوقع.
The monitoring committee has run into problems with the election committee. A press conference was scheduled for today in order to announce the final results of the elections. However, the conference was called off by the monitoring committee.
هذا المؤتمر بالتالي لا نعلم ماذا يكون مصير النتائج النهائية لكن عموما لجنة الانتخابات.
Generally speaking, the election committee has confirmed that the remaining votes will not change the final result, which seems to be in favor of Karzai.
Wali Allah Shaheen from Kabul, thank you.
على صعيد التطورات الميدانية كذلك أعلنت وزارة الدفاع البريطانية.
On the ground, the British Defense Ministry has announced that a British soldier was killed in gunfire in southern Afghanistan. In addition, an American soldier was wounded in an exchange of fire in the town of Babu Khail, south of the Afghan capital of Kabul. This news comes after the U.S. forces, backed by helicopters, raided the town of Babu Khail, which is considered to be a stronghold and an observation hub for the Taliban.
Zaidi's family and Iraqi Al-Baghdadiya TV channel are preparing to welcome back the Iraqi journalist Muntada al-Zaidi, who will be released by the Iraqi authorities on Monday.
Iraqi journalist Muntada al-Zaidi has served 3/4 of the prison time that he was sentenced to, but his release is already around the corner. At 9 a.m. on Monday, the young Iraqi who threw his shoes at former U.S. President George Bush will be coming home. His family and his colleagues are both preparing to welcome him.
Several countries offered Muntada political asylum. They offered medical treatment but not political refuge. The offers were from European countries, South American countries, and Arab countries. He considered these countries and decided to live in Iraq after he received treatment abroad.
Al-Baghdadiya has prepared a big celebration for our colleague Muntada al-Zaidi. At first, he will go abroad for medical treatment. After that, he will come directly back to work with his colleagues who have missed him all this time.
Zaidi will spend a period of time outside of the country in order to receive medical treatment. Then he will settle down in Iraq after that.
كتب الرئيس الأمريكي الأسبق جيمي كارتر مقالا في الواشنطن بوست بعنوان
Former U.S. President Jimmy Carter published an article in the Washington Post with the title, The Elders' View of the Middle East. He talked in the article about his visit to the region with a group of seniors, including Archbishop Desmond Tutu, former presidents Fernando Cardoso of Brazil and Mary Robinson of Ireland. Carter stated that there were 25 common denominators between Palestinians and Israelis. He criticized the Israeli settlement activities and expulsion of Arabs from their houses in Jerusalem. He also criticized Israel for attempting to establish one country after it annexed the West Bank and Jerusalem, thus destroying the two-state solution. Israel did not respond to Carter's article. Elliot Abrams, a prominent figure of the New Conservatives in the United States and a member of the Middle Eastern Studies in the U.S. Foreign Relations Council, tried to show Israel's good side with references of statistics and research that was done by international organizations, indicating that the Palestinians enjoy their lives in the West Bank. He criticized Carter for distorting Israel's image by portraying it as a cruel nation. The elders' view of the Middle East differs from the point of view of the young Arab rulers, who are clinging to their political positions at the price of their dignity and their people's rights.
The relationship between Iraq and Syria, which has been tense recently, not only depends on political factors, but also on economic trade. Economic experts believe that the economic relations between the two countries can be used to influence Syria's policies.
According to economists, Iraq is an important market for Syrian products. The economic trade between the two countries gives Syria an advantage, not to mention that large sums of money are transferred to Iraqis living in Syria, which has a strong influence on its economy.
Economic experts agree that Syria will lose economically if its relations with Iraq deteriorate. This will have negative effects on its trade balance and economy, because Syria relies on Iraq to market its products.
The trade balance between Iraq and Syria is definitely to the advantage of Syria. The 1 million Iraqis who live in Syria do not live on money that is given to them by the Syrian government. They live on money sent to them from Iraq. All the money transfers are made possible by the wealth of Iraqis who are now living in Iraq. Therefore, the Syrian economy benefits from the trade balance between Iraq and Syria, which is absolutely to the advantage of Syria. Iraq absolutely has a trade deficit with Syria. No one can tell me how many dollars are being transferred from Syria to Iraq. To the contrary, all money transfers go from Iraq to Syria. Therefore, if economic relations are impacted, Syria will lose more than Iraq. Iraq now has regional outlets and does not suffer from a blockade like it did in the past.
The trade balance, which gives Iraq the advantage, and the presence of Iraqi capital in Syria, is now important for the Syrian economy. This means that using economic pressure might be more effective than using political pressure to make Syria reconsider its policies and improve its relations with Iraq.
Of course, this will affect economic relations. Iraq primarily depends on products exported from Syria, regardless if they are produced by public or private factories. This includes food products and other products that are important for stimulating the Syrian economy. Syrian products dominate Iraqi markets in general, such as products from Al-Shurqa and Al-Jamila.
البضائع السورية هي السائدة. أكيد أن التوتر في العلاقات العراقية السورية.
Of course, the tense Iraqi-Syrian relations will overshadow the economic trade between Iraq and Syria. The trade between the two countries last year amounted to more than $2 billion. This is important for the Syrian and Iraqi economies.
مهم بالنسبة للاقتصاد السوري والاقتصاد العراقي على حد سواء.
مراجعة سوريا لحساباتها يجب أن يأخذ بجدية مسألة.
Syria has to reconsider its position and must seriously consider the benefits that it has been reaping, which have stimulated its economy. This means that its economy depends on the stability of Iraq.
في العراق علاقة حسن الجوار بالنسبة لسوريا مع العراق لا تقف عند.
Good neighborly relations between Syria and Iraq are not shaped only by good intentions. Rather, they depend on the large economic interests that Syria has in Iraq. Iraqi markets are extremely important for Syrian products. From Baghdad, Ahmed Rubai, Al-Iraqiya.
Get more news about the Middle East online at linktv.org/Mosaic. The Mosaic webpage offers a complete archive of Mosaic programs, program transcripts, the Mosaic video podcast, and the Mosaic Intelligence Report, a weekly analysis of the hottest stories from the Middle East. The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible with the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.